The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's the 31st of October, 2025. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined this morning by our recruiting mavens, Luke Chaney and Stephen Wagner, as we discuss the news of the day. And the news of the day today, we're kind of waiting for tomorrow at noon when the Hurricanes play SMU in Dallas. I'm going to be getting on a plane later this morning, heading out to the Big D and looking forward to tomorrow's game. But there's been a flurry of commitments this week, so I thought we would focus on that. Big commitments this week. Miami basketball got a really nice 5-star commit from Caleb Gaskins yesterday. We're going to talk about that one. On Wednesday night, they got 4-star defensive lineman Keyshawn Stansville to flip from Clemson. So that was one I don't think they were counting on. I'll let Stephen comment a little more on that, but that was one I don't think they were counting on. And he suddenly decided that he wanted to flip from Clemson to Miami. So obviously they said yes, but that could also start impacting the numbers at the defensive line position moving forward. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then earlier this week, one that I really in honor of Stephen is 4-star wide receiver Milan Paris. He committed to Miami over Oklahoma and Oregon. I watched this guy's tape a few weeks ago, and man, I'll tell you what, this is what this kid has the potential. You just never know. I mean, we would have been saying the same thing about, say, JoJo Trader, and JoJo Trader hasn't done a thing this year so far. But this Milan Paris kid looks to me like he has the goods to be a really good receiver for the Hurricanes down the road. So we'll talk about him. Luke, let's start with basketball, just because it was the most recent one. And to get a five-star kid is just another sign of the way that this program is being run. They had the inside connection, obviously, with Coach Moran, having coached at Columbus, and this kid being from Columbus, Gaskins. But it's still very significant. I mean, the Boozer twins were from Columbus, too. They didn't come to Miami. Why do you think Gaskins chose to stay home? I mean, he could have gone pretty much anywhere in America. Why do you think he chose to stay home, while the Boozers couldn't be swayed from their commitment to Duke?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen in recent years, or in the past 5-10 years, that just because an elite basketball prospect is from South Florida doesn't necessarily mean that they're a guy that the Hurricanes will end up with. I mean, Vernon Carey, Scotty Barnes, the Boozer twins, as you mentioned. There have been a lot of players to leave South Florida over these past 5 to 10 years. And to see Jay Lucas land arguably the most elite of those prospects in this 26 cycle is truly incredible. I mean, Caleb Gaskins, number 7 player in the country by Rivals, number 12 per the consensus or per the industry rankings. He is truly just a blue chip prospect. I think that he has one of the highest floors of any prospect in the 26 class, a guy that I think will contribute right away, someone who I can project. I mean, we don't know what the 26 roster is going to look like, but I would bet that he's probably going to start no matter what it looks like, because he is just such a plug and play, can guard multiple positions, can be a good connective piece on offense. He truly is an elite prospect, and with all of the 5 stars and all of the elite blue chip prospects that Miami is going after and Jay Lucas are going after in this cycle, to land a guy like Gaskins early on is promising. He's a terrific player, and it's promising for this staff as a whole during their first cycle to land best player in South Florida.
You were out of practice with me this week, and I know we both were very impressed by what we were seeing. And really, for me, it's top to bottom. I mean, the way that Jay Lucas has put this program together, and the staff that he's put together, and you see the coaching that's going on the floor, to me was extremely impressive. And Miami took a flyer here. This was not a clear-cut hire by any stretch of the imagination. It's an ACC job. It's a really good job. Miami was in the Final Four a couple years ago, so you see the potential of the program. But credit to the Miami hierarchy, President Joe Echeverria on down, because they took this flyer on Jay Lucas and his family business has been basketball. His dad is very influential, everything else, and it made some sense. But they didn't just throw him into the gym over there and say, make us a magical program. Like, they put the weight of the university behind this basketball program, and I believe, and I don't this isn't gospel what I'm about to say, but the number that I heard that they invested in players is about $12 million. Now you're going to go, oh my God. Well, no, I mean, that's not ungodly in the basketball world today. There are schools investing $15, $20 million in players, but they gave Jay Lucas what he needed to be successful, okay, in year one. And we're going to see how this season goes. I think Luke and I are in agreement that there's a lot of potential for this team. It's an impressive looking basketball team. Like, I equate it to, they almost look like a G League team, Luke, when you look at the size and the physicality and everything. It's going to be very interesting to see how they do. Shooting to me is going to be a variable, as it is for most teams, but athletically, physically, Miami has got to be right there with most of the other teams in the ACC. And so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But now they're building on that with a 5-star recruit as their first recruit for the next recruiting class. And man, the signs, tea leaves are looking really, really good for Miami basketball, the way this is going. So that's really exciting. All right, Stephen, let's jump next to Mr. Stansel. He was committed to Clemson. He's a 6'3", 260-pound defensive lineman from Clayton, North Carolina. Really another guy that could have gone just about anywhere. I mean, he honed in on Miami, Georgia, Penn State, NC State, and Clemson, and then picked Clemson back in the summer. But Miami hung in there. And, this is something that we're watching. And, Luke, you as well. I mean, we are watching Miami hang in there with kids where there's a lot going on with, for example, Derek Cooper, the running back who's committed to Texas. And this is kind of like what you have to do in today's world of recruiting, because you don't necessarily have to win in June. Okay. Winning in June, all that does is set the market, So Clemson wins in June, sets the market for Clemson. Clemson has a little bit of a rough season this year. Stansel starts second guessing his choice. Miami hangs in there. Steven, he calls them up. He says, I want to come to Miami. They couldn't say no.
Yeah. So basically the full context behind this thing is Stansel was one of, the most talked about names on Miami's board, and a name that we wrote about a lot back in the spring. Damian Lewis got out to his school and saw him during the contact period. They were able to meet and interact during the period where coaches are able to actually, talk to 2026 recruits at their school. We felt really good about Miami's position for him heading into the official visits. He visits Miami the weekend of May 30th, and we walk out of there feeling really, really good about where Miami sat. I was telling our subscribers on the board, I really think this kid could be a member of Miami's class. I even included him in one of my mock classes during the spring. Well, lo and behold, he ends up choosing Clemson instead at the end of May, he ends up choosing Clemson at the end of June. And we kind of figure, well, that's probably about that because of this very, very strict policy that Clemson has on commits having to totally shut down their recruitment once they commit to Clemson. Their whole thing is, okay, you can remain uncommitted, but once you do commit, you can't take any other visits and you got to fully shut things down. Miami's executive director of player personnel, a guy named Trip Carrico, stayed in touch with Stansel. And, it wasn't exactly, an all hands on deck aggressive push, but, he made sure that they kept the line of communication open. And, they just kind of kept communicating. Again, like I said, not an all hands on deck, crazy recruiting effort, but they were definitely keeping in touch. And then around, I guess, 12 days ago or so now, Stansel and his camp reach out to Miami and show very meaningful interest in Miami. And from what we've heard, Mario Cristobal and Corey Hedeman took a look at Stansel's senior tape, and they found that he was really developing into the player that they thought he was going to be all along. And now all of a sudden, this is a kid who really wants to come to Miami. So things kind of ramp up, escalate a little bit over a 10-day period. And then late Tuesday night, we start hearing a little bit of buzz that Keyshawn Stansel might end up flipping from Clemson to Miami. That was a name that really just came out of nowhere to us because, for those of you who have followed recruiting coverage on the site, we've pretty thoroughly documented all of the names that Miami is actively involved with, actively trying to flip from other schools. Keyshawn Stansel was never one of them. This is a name that completely came out of left field. And I called Keyshawn up as soon as I saw that. As soon as we started hearing that he was trending toward Miami, I called him up and I said, Keyshawn, we're starting to hear that you could be trending toward the Hurricanes. Is that right? And he just straight up told me, "Oh, I already flipped." I was like, seriously? He goes, yeah, I flipped about 20 minutes ago. I was like, what? When are you going to announce it? He was like, I was thinking later in the week. I was like, oh, okay. Can I get quotes from you for the commitment story real quick? And he goes, oh yeah, sure. All right. That's fine. So go ahead, hit record, ask him the story of how it happened. And now it's up on the site. This is a commitment that fell into Miami's lap in a very, very good way. I can tell you this time a month ago, I don't think anyone down in the Heck Center in Coral Gables was thinking that Keyshawn Stansel was going to be a member of this class. But every single year that I have covered recruiting, every single year that I've covered recruiting at Miami, which is 3 years now, this is my third cycle. The 24 was my first, then the 25 cycle, and now the 26 cycle. There has been one surprise commit every fall that has just absolutely come out of nowhere, a name we did not have on our radar whatsoever. In 2024, it was Justin Scott. Completely just caught us totally by surprise. We were not expecting Justin Scott to be a Hurricane. We thought that ship had sailed. 2025, it was Hayden Lowe. Hayden Lowe was from California, committed to USC. Seemed like the family kind of wanted him to be at USC. We thought, again, that was another ship that had sailed. He ends up suddenly out of nowhere flipping to Miami in November, and he ends up being a 5-star recruit. This year, it looks like it's Keyshawn Stansel. A name that we thought, okay, after he committed to Clemson in June, both us and from what I've assessed, the coaching staff felt like, okay, well, yeah, that's probably done. That ship has sailed. We had our opportunity. Unfortunately, we missed it, and that's going to be that. Lo and behold, now we're sitting here, and Keyshawn Stansel is a member of the 2026 class. So, sometimes things just fall into your lap in a really good way. Sometimes there's just a player that really likes a certain school and wants to be at a certain school. And I really think that's what happened here. It's certainly something that Miami's going to be pretty freaking happy about too.
All right, so we got stories on Stansel on the website, and one of them we talked to his head coach, Scott Chatwick, over there in Clayton, North Carolina. And so, Steven, you say to the guy, tell us what kind of player he is, who he is. Is there anybody you would compare him to? And he tells you that he doesn't normally do this, but he's going to compare him to Warren Sapp, okay? And I see this, and I'm thinking, wow, okay, you're going to go out on the limb, and you're going to compare this new commitment to Warren Sapp. And, Luke, when Warren Sapp played at Miami, shit, you were probably maybe like, man,
when do you play Miami again?
Okay, he played at Miami 8 years before I was born.
Yeah.
So that was
So, yeah, you guys didn't get a chance to see Warren Sapp, but listen,
And I'm pretty sure Luke was in elementary when I was in high school.
I wasn't even a thought at that point. So,
but listen, I saw Warren Sapp. Unfortunately, I'm the old one of this show today, but no, I mean, Warren Sapp was unbelievable, obviously, and for a coach to say that this kid can be that type of player is quite the statement. And I don't know if it's reality or not. We're gonna see. He's 6'3", 285 right now. He is very, very, very athletic, but he's largely been playing defensive end in a 4-3 or 3-4 defense. But this year he's moving inside, Stephen. And what kind of success has he been having at tackle?
He's been having a lot of success, and part of that is just the fact that he's bigger now. So On3 has him listed at 6'3", 260. His coach told me that he's somewhere around the 280, 285 range now. He's added a lot of really good weight. He's continuing to add muscle, and he's showing the flashes and he's showing the traits that it seemed like everyone kind of knew that he had, but now he's figuring out how to use them. He's quick. He's explosive. He's getting better and better understandings of how to attack different gap schemes and different run schemes, and all of this different stuff. Not to mention whenever they're in obvious passing situations, kind of his inherent speed the inherent speed that he has and the skills that he used by playing off the edge. Now those apply whenever he's matched up against centers and guards, and it allows him to be a little bit of a mismatch at the high school level. Now, he said, obviously he is going to need to continue to play weight because you are not going to be a 285-pound defensive tackle at the University of Miami. You're just not. But he thinks that it probably isn't going to take more than a semester for him to be able to do that because he is going to be an early enrollee. He'll sign in December. He'll enroll in January, and then he'll have that full offseason to be able to go ahead and hit the weight room and eat what he needs to eat to be able to get up to that size. I think there's a chance he could end up contributing in some way, shape, or form as a true freshman. I'm not speaking that into existence or anything, but it wouldn't stun me at all if we see him kind of playing, like Dante Simpson type of snaps this year. I mean, it's pretty hard to go on the field and start right away and be a massive impact guy.
Especially at defensive line. I mean,
especially at defensive line. But it would not surprise me at all if he gets, some of the snaps that, a Dante Simpson is getting this year as a true freshman. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Huh. Interesting. All right, this other commitment from earlier in the week really, really intrigued me, and that's Milan Paris. He's a 4-star wide receiver from Akron, Ohio, Walsh Jesuit High School, and I hadn't heard of him when his name popped on the radar a few weeks ago. So I went over and online and started watching tape of this guy, and I'm like, wow, this guy's really good. He was previously only committed to Iowa State. But his stock started to rise. There were some other schools that recruited him as well. And Miami really made its move here in the middle of the month when they got him into town for a visit, and things happened very quickly after that, Stephen.
Yeah, really, really quickly. So kind of the story with Milan Paris is Miami had eyes on him whenever he was a true freshman. In fact, Kevin Beard was the first receivers coach to stop by his high school and inquire about him whenever he was a freshman. But Miami never offered. They just kind of kept tabs on him. And then this fall, at the start of his senior season, they started watching his tape, and he just kind of jumped off the screen. He was always a big physical kid, but now he's big and physical, and his ball skills are drastically improved. I think kind of one of the knocks against him was previously he wasn't really an awesome, catcher of the football, a natural catcher of the football, a lot of body catches, a lot of stuff that, you kind of hesitate with a little bit. If you're a receivers coach and you're looking for possession guys who are going to really win these one-on-one contested catches on the outside, you want more guys that are going to catch the football, kind of like Ryan Moore. Like Joshua Moore. You kind of want to stay away from guys who are going to catch the football, like Ryan Wingo, if that makes sense. But this fall, I mean, his ball skills just improved. I mean, really, really drastically. His coach said that he would attest part of that to him playing basketball in the offseason. And then another part of that is just him just catching, thousands and thousands of footballs. Just getting really, really good at standing there in front of the jugs machine and just catching the football over and over and over again. The most boring, repetitive stuff you could possibly imagine. And so Miami jumped on him very, very quickly. They offered him in early September. And really from the start, they started pushing for him really hard. Kevin Beard was very involved. He led that recruitment. Dennis Smith, the general manager, was very involved as well. So was Mario Cristobal. Every staff member in Miami's building who, plays a role, made sure that they were involved in his recruiting. Oklahoma and Oregon also emerged as potential suitors. He took an official visit to Oregon earlier in the month. Then he took an official visit to Oregon, I think about like 1 or 2 weeks later. And then after that, he ends up taking this visit to Miami for their game against Stanford. This past weekend, things went really, really well in the visit. He told us after the visit, he said, I wouldn't be stunned if this is the place. And he ends up going ahead and pulling the trigger a couple of days later. He said after the visit that, he kind of wanted to pause and take his time and, figure out when he was going to actually want to commit, but it would probably be coming in the next couple of weeks. Then Monday, he announces on his Instagram, hey, everyone, I'm committing tomorrow at 7. And at that point, it was kind of like okay, we know what this means. It's going to be Miami.
Another thing that he's done is he spent a lot of time in the weight room, and all of his numbers, his squat, his bench went up significantly here in recent months, and that also contributed to making him a more complete player that would inspire Miami to jump in there and try to land them. So that's now 4 receivers in this class. There's 1 or 2 other guys on the board that, Calvin Russell and the Jason Lopez that Miami's been fishing with. I'm not sure how hard they will be trying to flip, those guys, get those guys on board now that they have 4 committed receivers. And it just goes, show you the kids that slow play this thing and don't jump in the boat when they have an opportunity might not have that option down the road. Teams aren't waiting around. Certainly the Hurricanes are not. I believe that's what, 25
now. It would have been 26, 25. But they lost Kent Dobson to North Carolina.
Yeah, so 25 commitments now. So this class is starting to get pretty full as we're sitting here, about 5 weeks before signing day. So really interesting. All right, there's a few more things we're going to talk about, but first I got to take a moment and talk about CaneSwear. So let's take a look at it.
Welcome to CaneSport. New store, new items, same great experience. Family owned and operated since 2010, CaneSport has the latest merchandise from the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Florida Panthers, Inter Miami CF, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of 595, or online at caneswear.com. CaneSport, the spot Miami fans shop.
And yeah, man, if you have not made your way to CaneSwear or caneswear.com by this point in the season, you are cheating yourself because the store is stocked with really cool Hurricane stuff. I don't know if you like the camo gear the other night for the Stanford game, but they still have some of that left in the store, and all the new Adidas. And man, they got hats and jerseys and T-shirts and hoodies and flags, decals, magnets. If it's got a U logo on it, they have it at CaneSwear, and you can shop it in all different sizes for men, women, kids, babies. they'll even dress your pet. You got a dog at home, you want to put a Canes jersey on your dog, you can do it. All you got to do is go over to Caneswear, caneswear.com. The store is located 2655 South University Drive in Davie. It's about 15 minutes north of Hard Rock Stadium. So if you're going to the Syracuse game next week, you can go by Caneswear on your way to the stadium if you want. If not, you can always go to caneswear.com, shop them 24/365. For the latest and greatest Hurricanes merchandise, Caneswear is your spot. All right, guys. I wanted to talk a little bit about, we have a story on the website that I thought was kind of interesting because, we mentioned that there's 25 commitments now, but they're not done. Okay. And, we talk about picking up guys that they, have just stuck with. And, the reason why some guys you just got to wait until the end here to make a big move is maybe another school's offered them a huge NIL deal and you don't want to get into a bidding war, or you don't know that is as big a priority as for your class as maybe somebody else does. And if you go in early, you're usually the one setting the market. So I expect Miami to go whale hunting a little bit in the month of December based on their roster needs. And Stephen, we have a story on the website today identifying 7 guys that that Miami, in our opinion, needs to host for visits here before signing day in the next 4 or 5 weeks. And real quick, I'll just you got 5-star athlete Lamar Brown. He's a defensive lineman, #1 overall prospect. He's committed to LSU. And with Brian Kelly being fired, it could be game on for Lamar Brown. 4-star edge Bryce Perry Wright. He is presently a Texas A&M commit. Nolan Wilson, a 4-star defensive lineman. He's presently an Alabama commit. Anthony Lafayette, another LSU commit. He's an edge. Karsten Bush, he's a Louisville commit. He's a linebacker. 3-star running back Lecky Tompkins, who's also a Louisville commit. And then Luke Brewer, he's an uncommitted tight end who's going to visit Miami the weekend of November 15th, and that'll be his final visit before he announces a commitment. So 7 guys that, Stephen, are on your radar for predominantly flips there. I know Brewer hasn't announced yet. But do you think it's just 7, or is the list a lot deeper than that?
Yeah, there's probably a couple of other names that I would throw in there, but maybe I didn't just because I'm not totally certain just how awesome Miami's chances with these guys are going to end up being. I think Julian Manson, the linebacker who's currently committed to Iowa, he's a really big on 300 outlier, Rivals 300 outlier. I believe he's a top 60 prospect right now. Miami, really valued him. They definitely had him high on their board, and they were shooting their shot with him fairly aggressively back in the spring. They were never able to get him to campus. I'm not sure if they ever will be able to get him to campus. I'm not sure if that's ever going to happen, but you kind of have to think that, if Miami were going to have a shot with a kid like Julian, they probably were going to have to end up getting him down. One guy who's going to visit for the Pitt game, or excuse me, not the Pitt game, for the Syracuse game, who I think is definitely going to be worth keeping an eye on, is going to be Tamarian Watkins. Some of you guys might remember he was a 4-star linebacker committed to Texas A&M. Miami got on him kind of late. They didn't offer him until I think early May. They moved kind of quickly to schedule an official visit. Seemed like he was trending towards South Carolina at a point. Then he ends up going to Texas A&M. Miami continued to value him really, really highly. And one of the reasons why I'm mentioning his name is Miami needs more linebackers in this class. Currently the only one that they have is J.J. Edwards. And they like him a lot. They're going to make sure that Edwards stays locked in and that he ultimately ends up a Hurricane. But Watkins is a guy who they really, really liked quite a bit too. And so he's expected to get down here next weekend. We'll kind of see how that visit ends up going, but certainly his recruitment isn't shut down. I know I mentioned Karsten Bush in there. I got to say right now, I'm not ultra confident in Miami's chances. He is a Louisville commit, and he's a Louisville commit. His head coach has really strong ties to the program. I believe his head coach's son is actually the tight ends coach at Louisville. And his parents are Louisville season ticket holders, and the kid literally lives in the city of Louisville. He goes to high school in the city of Louisville. And Miami really liked him a lot, but kind of from what I've heard, I'm not ultra confident in Miami's chances, especially after they lost to Louisville. Corey Heatherman got up to go see him a couple of weeks ago. I think that was during the Hurricanes bye week. He went up and he watched his game. It just seems like Miami never really gained the meaningful traction there. And so the reason that I included him in that list is, if Miami is going to have any sort of chance, they would probably have to get him down. Like it's hard for me to see a path to Karsten Bush ending up at Miami if they don't get him down for a visit. And right now it feels kind of unlikely that they will, but we'll see. Crazier things have happened.
All right. And mentioned obviously earlier in the show that the Miami Hurricanes will be in Dallas to play SMU tomorrow. Obviously, every game's a key game now with the home stretch of the season. Canes can't afford to slip up anywhere else. And going into the season, we probably would have said that this SMU game was one of the key games of the year. People are a little skeptical. SMU's banged up. They lost last week at Wake Forest. But I'm saying not so fast, my friend, on this one. I mean, I know Rhett Lashley, and they still have a lot of talent there, and he's going to put a game plan together and find ways, just like everybody else does early in games, to create some problems and some matchups that maybe you weren't expecting. And I think SMU could mount somewhat of a challenge here. I think the Canes should win. But Luke, you've been patiently waiting there for a little bit now, so I'm going to end the show here with you. What are you looking for tomorrow in this SMU Miami football game?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great opportunity for Carson Beck to find his rhythm once again. He played a good game against Stanford, but at the same time, there wasn't anything special that he showed. There wasn't anything downfield that he did that was particularly impressive. Like I said, good game, but nothing too crazy. SMU has
vanilla game plan. It was a very vanilla game plan.
Exactly. That's a great way of putting it. SMU is one of the worst pass defenses in the country. I think it's a great opportunity for Miami to open up the vertical passing game. And if SMU stacks the box, that's a great chance for Miami to attack SMU over the top and take advantage of that weak secondary. My other thing with SMU is, while they are pretty solid offensively, I do have a lot of respect for Kevin Jennings. I had him as the top quarterback on Miami's schedule coming into the season. I don't know if I would now, but he's still a very solid quarterback. One of my just issues or qualms with Lashley, even when he was a coordinator at Miami, is that I feel like his scheme or his offenses don't scale up effectively against higher tier, against higher levels of competition. So we'll see if he does that this weekend against Miami. I have the Hurricanes winning comfortably. I think SMU will put up a fight in the first half, but I have Miami winning by 10 to 14 points.
Yeah, I'm with you on some of what you said there. I think that Miami needs to take its offense to another gear here for the rest of this season. They beat Stanford, pounding the ball, and it wasn't really that hard, quite frankly. It was hard in the first half. They weren't playing very well, but second half, once they got it going, I mean, Stanford was pretty helpless. I mean, Miami was able to do pretty much whatever it wanted. It might be able to have similar success with the same strategy against SMU. I mean, Miami is a superior team at the line of scrimmage, and they might be able to pound the rock against SMU, but I feel like they're falling into a trap because when you get to the end of the year and you have to play the better teams, you're going to have to be more well-rounded than that. And Stanford's coming in here. They turn the ball over a lot. Like on defense, they get a lot of turnovers, and they're one of the nation's leaders in interceptions, if not number one. But they give up an enormous amount of yards along the way, and they can mount a good pass rush sometimes. But Miami has the advantage of a play action game because SMU must respect the run without question, and they're going to run the ball some. But I hope they take this opportunity against a defense that has given up some pretty big chunks of yardage to receivers to kind of open this thing up a little bit this weekend and start showing some more diversity in the offense. It'll make the fans very happy. The fans are getting a little ornery about, the predictability of the run game. And, listen, Carson Beck threw a lot of interceptions, threw 4 interceptions, could have been 5 against Louisville. I can see where that might have spooked the coaches a little bit, but I think they got to look at the prize at the end and realize this is a team that's built for the postseason. And if they could just get a little bit more explosive and get a little less predictable on offense and get more well-rounded in their game, I think that would make this week at SMU, perhaps the turning point of the season for the Canes in that regard. So I'm hoping they open it up a little bit and make some big plays this week and just start getting some confidence back in Carson Beck, letting him get some confidence back in himself. So we'll see what happens tomorrow at high noon up there in Dallas. And I will be there. And if any of you guys are going to be there, look for me. I'll be on the sideline before the game. I love meeting a lot of you guys. I get to meet so many of you really as much at the road games as the home games. So I'm looking forward to seeing a bunch of you in Dallas tomorrow. So that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. Thank you guys so much for starting out your day with us. For Stephen Wagner and Luke Chaney, I'm Gary Ferman. Hopefully go Canes tomorrow at noon, and we'll see everybody on Monday on this show. Have a great weekend, everybody.